Hello, Internet. As we rapidly approach the holiday season, the amount of ads on the internet in general has been pretty insane. And I, for one, am getting very sick of it. So I'm going to get my PiHole DNS set up today, and we're going to go through it together, so hopefully this can help you as well. The good thing about PiHole is that this is an external device that sits on your network. So this will block ads for any device that connects to your home network, as long as it's configured properly in the router, which we will do today. So without further ado, let's get into it. There's a couple things that you're going to need. Obviously, first and foremost, you need a device to run PiHole DNS. I have a Raspberry Pi 0 2W. I got the 2W because it has a built-in wireless card. And so the nice thing about this is once you flash the drive and load all your settings on there, all you need to do is plug it into power, and that's it. There's no other configurations required on this. No peripherals, no keyboard, mouse, etc. The other thing you're going to need is a micro SD card. I have a 128 gig micro SD card that's currently plugged into my computer. You're also going to need access to your home router. You're going to need to download the Raspberry Pi imager, and we're also going to need some type of terminal application like, PuTTY or something else. So first thing we need to do is flash the drive. So I've already plugged my micro SD into my computer, not into the Raspberry Pi, into my computer. Okay, and then I downloaded the imager software, which you can get from the Raspberry Pi website. And so the first thing you need to do is scroll down to select your model. Mine's the 2W, the 02W. Now here you can do normal PiOS. I just like to use the light version because it's very simple and it's all on a command line, and once it's set up, we never have to touch it again. So I'm going to pick the micro SD that's plugged into my computer, and then we're going to name the device. Make sure you remember what this device name is, because this is how you're going to reference this device later. I just have mine called PiHole. Okay? Time zone, all that stuff. This is going to be username and password to actually get into the device. So we have that there. And then this is going to be your wireless SSID. So this is how you're actually going to configure access to this device. So mine, I am going to grab the password because I have it saved on a picture because I'm lazy. So let me input that. Okay. Forgot that I changed my SSID. Okay. Then we're going to click next. And here we need to make sure that we enable SSH. I just have regular password authentication. If you want to set up a fingerprint, that's fine too. And then I don't care about Raspberry Pi Connect. Okay. And now we are going to write to the drive, and I will pop back in here once it is done writing, and we'll go from there. Okay, we are done writing, and so I am going to take out the micro SD card, and we are going to plug it in to our Raspberry Pi, right? Just plug it in the top. And then the only thing that we need to do here is plug it into power. There's two plugs. This one is data, this one is power. The only one that we need is power. And you know that this worked properly if you see activity lights. There is no power light for this. So once we power it on, you should now see that activity light blinking. That's how you know it worked. If the activity light is blinking, that means that it's writing to the disk, it's joining Wi-Fi, it's getting all configured and set up. So now that it's powered on, I'm going to give it just a couple minutes to load and do everything, and then we'll go on to next steps. Okay, the device, the PiHole device is now set up. We know it's in the network. I am on my home router currently, and I can see that the PiHole now has a DHCP address of 0.168.0.94. Now this is okay, but what we need to do is we need to statically assign this IP so that it never changes, right? We want this address to stay this address always so that we can use it as our network's DNS. That's kind of the whole point of this thing. So we're gonna add a reservation. If you do not know how to get into your router, the easiest way is if you open up command line, and when you type ipconfig, it'll show you your IP address, and then it'll show you a default gateway. That default gateway is typically the router that you need to access in order to do this. So we're gonna grab the PiHole, right, because that's what we named it, and we're gonna save it. So now that address is gonna stay that address forever, and that's what we want. And now that we have that address, we want to launch a terminal. Like I said, I use PuTTY. There's other ones that you can use, but I've been using PuTTY forever, so that's what I'm gonna use today. So we are gonna go to that IP. Now the other way that you can do it too is you could just do PiHole, I believe. Yeah. So even if you don't know the IP, you can reference by DNS if it's set up properly, and then just do it that way, okay? So now I am in the actual device, and this is going to be what you set up on that initial configuration, right? When you did the flash, that's gonna be the SSH credentials to get into this device. So now we are terminaled in to the PiHole, or to the Raspberry Pi. The first thing that I like to do, even before we do the PiHole install, is we wanna do an apt-get update, okay? And then apt-get upgrade. Oh, sudo apt. Actually, let's just do a sudo su. So now we're full root. And then we can do an apt-get update. And then we're going to do an apt-get upgrade as well. We want to make sure that this device is completely up to date before we install the software, just to make sure. This is a Linux device, so we need to make sure that everything is patched. So I'm just going to wait a couple of minutes. We're going to do an apt-get update and then apt-get upgrade. Oh, it's already done. Okay. And then we'll do an apt-get upgrade. And there shouldn't be a whole lot else to grab. And then, yes, I do want to continue. And it looks like there was just a Python library that needed to be updated. But that's good. So while it's doing that, our next step is going to be to actually set up PiHole. Now, what I wanted to do is so the PiHole documentation shows you all of this stuff. So if you just go to the install page, you can even see that has it right here. It's just a single line. It's this curl SSL, okay? So we're gonna grab that, and looks like this is all done, and then we're gonna paste that in here. Easy peasy. Now keep in mind, I'm sudoed, right? So you might have to do sudo at the beginning of all these commands, okay? And then this is just gonna go through the actual PiHole installation on this device. So I'm going to let it go through these updates and the install, and then we'll swing back by once this is done, and then we are at the home stretch. We're almost there. Okie doke. This installer will transform your device into a network-wide ad blocker. That's what we want. It's free. Make sure you donate. It is a server, so it needs to be a static IP, which we have already done, so we're going to continue. This does not matter a whole lot. I use Cloudflare, been using Cloudflare. They've had a lot of outages lately, though. Yes, I do like to have the unified host list. This is just a good list to have. And then, yes, I would like to enable query logging. And we're going to hide domains. Most of that stuff is preference. I choose to hide domains because I like to see user identification, but not a big deal either way. Okay. So now this is going to finish off the installation with all those configuration steps that we made. And then we should be almost there. So let's actually open up a web browser. Since this is almost done. Okay, and it's done. So now, when we go to a web browser, we should be able to go to PiHole.local, or whatever the device name is, .local, /admin, if it's done. Okay, so this will pop up and basically say, hey, you're all good. So this is fine. You can note the password if you want, but we're gonna change it anyways. Okay, so now we have our PiHole device. Okay, let's go to HTTPS. Okay, so now we're on the PiHole device, but what we really want to do is set a new password for the PiHole. So if you're not in root, you're gonna start this with sudo, but you're gonna do PiHole space set password, no space at the end, and then you're gonna put the password, which I'm not gonna show you here. Okay, and then it said set password, but I cleared it out because I don't want you to see it. Okay, so now we are in PiHole. Okay, so this happens a lot, and you can manage the list, but it looks like this is enabled, so we're just gonna let that parse get going. So PiHole is now set up, but how do we leverage all of the devices in our network to use PiHole? Well, we're just gonna use that as our main DHCP DNS server, right? All these devices get DHCP from our router, and so we're gonna go back to this router, and in my primary DNS, I'm gonna put the device of the PiHole. So that's 192.168.0.94, okay? And then we are going to save it. Now, leases are usually between 8 and 16 hours, so that might take some time to actually propagate to the rest of the devices in your network. But in the meantime, just for proof of concept, to make sure that we can see that this works, I'm gonna modify this device specifically. So let's go to Control Panel, and we're gonna open up Network and Sharing Center, and then we're gonna go to our Ethernet, okay? And then here, should probably do that a little bit slower. Go to Network and Sharing Center, hit the adapter, click Properties on the adapter, and then in the Ethernet profile, we're gonna go to TCP/IP v4, okay? And then we're gonna use the following DNS address, 192.168.0.94, okay? Boom. And now we are using this DNS. So let's go to like twitch.tv. Oop. Because we know there's a ton of ads there. And as we refresh, hey, we can see that the queries are starting to come in. There we go. Boom, active clients. So we're good. So PiHole is now in place. Now for the rest of the devices in the network, as they get new leases and their new DNS server is populated in here, they'll start using this for DNS as well. Honestly, that's pretty much it. There are some additional configurations you can do, mostly your lists. There's a lot of lists out there, so I highly encourage you to go look a little bit deeper into this to find maybe some specifically tailor-made lists for some of the more nuanced, ad delivery mechanisms that may be out there. But yeah, Merry Christmas. I hope 2026 has much less ads in the world than 2025 because it has been insufferable. But with this in the way, ads are a thing of the past, and you can go back to browsing the internet the way that it should be done. So yeah, if you have any issues, just leave a comment below. I'd be more than happy to troubleshoot this with you. If you like it, leave a like, leave a comment, maybe subscribe to the channel. I haven't uploaded in a while, but I think I'm going to start doing real life stuff. I've been doing gray hot content for a long time. I think I'm going to transition to the real world, mostly because I've been doing real life security stuff. Maybe we'll do some try hack me lessons, a couple other things. Anyways, have a great day, guys.